We are here today to tell you everything you need to know about adaptogenic mushrooms. Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Kayoum, president of Mers Apothecary and smallflower.com. I'm here with my brother Jay Q. Been part of our Smallflower sales team for what, 20 years now, Jay?
Since I was born.
Since you were born. And we both recommend adaptogenic mushrooms all the time with our families, for ourselves. We thought we'd bring a special guest in today. We have Jerry Angelini, who is an integrative practitioner, training with an experience with psychiatric and chronic illness rehabilitation. You are the host defense educational director, and you have degrees from Boston University, training also in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism, Ayurveda, and Western clinical herbalism. Is that all correct?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good, right? And then here and there, some other stuff too. But like, that's life, right? I mean, life is the training ground.
It's good to have you with us, Jerry. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, always pleasure to be here.
I'm seeing the mushrooms fly off the shelves at our store. So I think that they're going good in general, or at least good sales-wise. But people need mushrooms right now.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that, you know, as long as you're not allergic to mushrooms, get them in your daily diet, use them as a daily supplement. Mushrooms are like these super amazing, like you're calling them adaptogenic foods, or just foods. They're amazing for our bodies. There's so many benefits that we can receive from having mushrooms in our daily life.
I love that, you know, you're part of a company that's selling supplements, but you're really touting get it in your body any way you can, and eating it is great too. And I think that it's culinarily, it's a real fun food to play with because it's so versatile.
And it can create some great flavor to umami. We always want to cook our mushrooms because you got to break down all of that cell structure to kind of get at the good stuff, right? But like portobellos, even your white button mushrooms, which is really just a small portobello, right? Shiitake mushrooms have great flavor. Oyster mushrooms, lion's mane is an awesome mushroom to cook and has this great kind of like
lobster.
When you cook it. We have a mushroom grower locally. Amazing. I get like 2-pound lion's mane every Sunday. I'm out there, I'm getting my lion's mane at the farmer's market, and like I trust these guys, you know, like I've talked to them in depth. They know me. They've told me about their cultivation practices and how on top of everything, and you know, in terms of making sure that they're contaminant free, they're clean, they have great sources for their substrate. And I'm just like these are people I trust. And these lion's mane, they cook amazingly.
You know, Southern California has always been ahead of the curve in terms of nutrition and food and like self-awareness about what you're putting into your body in terms of nutrition. I think we're going to start seeing in Chicago and in the Midwest at farmers markets, I think it's going to become a mainstay very soon for the rest of us as well.
I hope so, because this stuff is great. And way back, I mean, people would just, you know, go out and wild harvest mushrooms. And we want to be a little bit careful with that. We want to make sure people know what they're harvesting for sure. Like, it's kind of like you don't go out into into your yard and just start eating grass or anything that's green. You know, you want to make sure you know what you got, and you want your harvesters to know what they have too. But then, you know, there's some other influences that we have to take into consideration now, which is drift, like pesticide or environmental, just like industrial waste drift and stuff like that. And those do accumulate in our mushrooms. They're amazing for our environment, right? They're like sponges. They help kind of clean up whatever's in the environment, but you don't necessarily want to eat that. Purchasing your mushrooms from a trusted grower can like remove a lot of that. When I say that, I mean like they've done their homework. They know about buildup and contamination and stuff like that. They have really excellent processes in their cultivation practices. In other cultures, like mushrooms are part of their daily diet and their world. There are all these different edible mushrooms that we can bring into our daily life. It's not just about the white button mushroom anymore. With my lion's mane, the last couple of times I've been making them, I cut these, like, they're big, right? So I cut them in like slices and they almost turn into little steaks, and I throw some coconut aminos on them. I fry them up in ghee because I'm a big fan of clarified butter. And
you're talking to two Indian boys, so yeah.
Right. And then, like, I threw a little miso paste on at the end, and these things were really delish. Like, just a great way to get like a non-animal protein, beautiful texture to it. And then they're filled with this prebiotic fiber. Like, we know mushroom, these beta glucans and their fibers within them, we don't digest them, but our microflora do. It's really like specific to our probiotic microflora, like our lactobacilli, our bifidobacteria. The other ones that inhabit our intestinal tract, they don't like it as much, so they don't eat it. That means that all of our inherently probiotic microflora thrive when we eat these mushrooms.
So it's food for you and your microbiome.
Right? And so this is like, eat it, like throw it in your food like 2 or 3 times a week, if that's what you can do. Like me, I cook a whole bunch of it beforehand, like on a Sunday afternoon, and I just have it in the fridge and I just dip into it like so every day. So it's always, in my diet. But get creative, have fun, like get these really beautiful foods into your daily diet if you can.
Well, as you're describing that meal, I'm realizing we've talked to you a few times now, and it's always been enjoyable, but the next one needs to be in a kitchen somewhere where you're showing us how to do this, because I am hungry right now, I have to say.
So that's a good segue, actually, because a lot of people don't have access year-round or live in a place where the only available mushroom is a portobello or a white button, and they want to vary that up and get a little bit more of these compounds that you're talking about because they're so beneficial for our immune system and for so many other things, like you said, our flora. I think let's transition into host defense. Right?
Yeah, if you can tell us a little bit about host defense, please. Because when you talk about trusted sources, you were talking culinarily, but the same would be true if you're taking in mushrooms as a supplement.
That's been our trusted source, and why should it be, I guess, is the question.
It's perfect transition, right? Like this whole concept of, we want to make sure what we're bringing into our body is going to help us. We talk about it in medicine too. First, do no harm. Host defense has a number of what are called good manufacturing processes, so GMP, right? We even have a term in the industry, and we follow GMP practices and have for a couple of decades now. So what does that mean? That means that we test. We do testing on our batches and on our final products, and we test for things like pesticides, and we test for over 185 pesticides on a regular basis. What's called non-detect. So let me be clear about that. You can find anything if you can test it low, like at parts per trillion, which almost no one does, right? So mostly they're looking at parts per million. So you test and it comes up non-detect. Excellent, wonderful. We also test for microbiological contamination. Super important. You don't want anything that's going to make us sicker, right? We want to make sure that they come up non-detect, and then we're going to test for heavy metals. We're going to test for things like mercury and lead and arsenic and cadmium, and those are your big 4. And those we actually test to parts per billion. That's like a brilliant test because no one gets to parts per billion. And even with mercury and lead, we get non-detect at parts per billion. So that's like, no one does that. So we know we have super, super clean products. Even like the cadmium and arsenic, which is often found in rice anyway, is below the typical norm. And when I say below, we're talking like an order of magnitude below. So
that's awesome.
Super safe. Really important to make sure that all of those are there. And then we've also been organic growers for over 20 years. We're certified organic by,
before organic was a thing.
Right. I mean, so like this is important to us, right? So this is what we talk about when we talk about how do you become trusted? Like, and we get certifications. We have these, national agencies and organizations that come in and they check out our processes, and we fully back that kind of experience. It's taken a long time. It gets expensive too, right? That's worth it to us. Like, it's worth it to us to make sure that our product is going to do no harm. And then we take the next step. And this is something really amazing about host defense products. And again, it's expensive, but we're testing our product in human blood and in human clinical trials to prove efficacy. And we're really the only mushroom company in the country that does that, as far as I'm aware. That may change, and we hope it does. Like, we want other
the
companies.
norm, not the exception, right?
Exactly. It's really great to have that data that, comes back from these third-party immune laboratories that say, not only does your product work, it's like the bomb. Like, this stuff is like,
That's a scientific term, right?
It is. It's totally. They're like, we've never seen one like natural product, have such a broad, balancing, and engaging impact on immune response anywhere. We knew it helped people, like, because, people take it and they call us and they're like, you guys are great. We love it. And it really helps. But now we know exactly how. And that's what's really amazing.